So, hello everyone. Welcome. Welcome to the free media workshops. Thanks for being here today on this beautiful Saturday afternoon. But you came here for a good one. We've got a great workshop in store. We have Jake VanHuss, and he is wonderful. He teaches for us in radio, TV, film. We like to call him the human Swiss Army knife, because he does so many things so well, including teaching video production for us and writing, and also After Effects. And he's taught with digital media. He's freelance. He's done just about everything I think there is to do in freelance. Is that about right, Jake?
That's to be sure. I'll go for that.
So just a little reminder, these free media workshops are something new that we've just started. This is the second one. We did one with Martin a couple weeks ago, and we're going to continue these through the fall. These are presented by the Media and Communication Department at East Tennessee State University and the the Northeast Tennessee Entertainment Alliance. So we're collaborating to present these to offer some skills to our students and also the broader community. So thanks for being here. Just a little reminder, if you're not Jake, please go ahead and mute your microphone and enjoy the workshop. And thank you so much, Jake, for being here and for doing this.
Sure. Okay, so I hope that always whenever it comes to kind of putting together things like this, it's always the first thing that hits my head is, I immediately go to, all right, so I've got to prepare for like a room full of me. And if I don't have something that's like super complex, then people are going to drop off, and then I have to talk myself down and say, no, it's people just want to know how to do stuff. So I've probably reworked this particular workshop a good half dozen times already, and now I think I changed it this morning again because I'm thinking, no, I'm probably overthinking it as usual. But I'm going to, because I forgot about it, I'm going to be let me do this right now while I have it in my brain to do it. I'm going to go ahead and send Shara the get out of here. I'm going to send her the kind of project folder that I'm working with for this, so that she can disperse it to you guys, whatever is the easier way to do so. Because I was going to put this in a Dropbox this morning, and then life and things. So let me get this guy on here, desktop, boom. And I think it's about 100 megs, which for me, that's a small project folder. That's pretty well packed and tight. So we'll wait for that thing to get linked up. But essentially, so when we're talking about doing digital effects, we're talking about adding things to footage that we've already shot. The first thing that I will tell everybody 100 times out of 100, if you can do it practically, do it practically. Don't count on digital to save your life, to save your project. It's there. It's a tool. It's a good thing to have. Obviously we can't always get the kind of contacts that we want people to wear, and you can't always fabricate horns and all this other kind of crazy stuff like for your characters, especially specifically when we're talking about horror films and things like that. You can't have all that stuff pre-done. So it's advisable to do as much though practically as you can, especially like base tone makeup. I mean, that's one of the simplest things out there. You can whenever obviously whenever Halloween comes around, Spirit Halloween, all the rest of them have got all this kind of base cream makeups and things like that. Just if as a simple level what kind of what you want your character to essentially look like. And then most of the rest of the stuff you can try to start adding in, kind of going from there. Now there's a couple of different approaches to it. Essentially they're both revolving around the same principles. The principles are being able to have something that's trackable. If you've got a face and somebody's moving the face around a lot, or they're obscuring it a lot, it's going to get harder, a little trickier. You want to know what you have in store for yourself, and what kind of nightmare that you're creating for yourself on the back end as well. So you want to try to keep it the shots as dead on as possible. If there's a little bit of movement, that's okay. It's not anything that's going to destroy your shot. It can all be done. It's just the more and more time you're going to have to invest on the back end to get it done. So always be kind of conscientious of that. think about how you're setting up your shots. You should be being very conscientious about your cinematography anyway. Your shot should be, you know, when it comes to horror, especially when you're talking about monsters, when you're talking about things that are meant to scare, things like that, it should be, you know, it should be all done in moderation. You know, you don't, it's just like if you go back and rewatch Jaws, and Jaws is like a classic horror movie, they didn't show the shark until very close to the very end. And that's typically how good horror films do it. I mean, once you've seen the monster early on, you see him in bright sunlight and everything, it's pretty much destroys that illusion of what's scary or not. So you want to build anticipation, because horror films are all anticipation. So all of that junk being said, you can kind of think about it a couple of different ways. And there's actually a good, it's like a lot of things that I'll do is I'll get whatever kind of shot, set up the shot I'm going to do, especially if it's a reveal shot, you know, which is kind of going to be sort of what we're looking at today. It's something that's pretty dead on. You've got the actor or actress kind of leaning in or something like that, or moving in towards the camera, and that's your big push moment. And then you want to kind of have them squared up, or if they're kind of moving their head up or moving it down and, you know, kind of eyeing the camera, something like that. Then I'll take a still frame from that, and then I'll throw it into Photoshop and kind of design what I want to do. That being said, it's not the only way to do it. I thought about doing that today and kind of showing you guys that process, but it can be a bit arduous and a bit tedious and time consuming. So I decided to try to take something that's could pretty much be done in After Effects with a few textures and things like that, and just kind of roll from there. There's actually, and this is definitely not a plug. I'm not hired by these guys to pitch this, but I will tell you guys, for those of you who are not big Photoshop people, who don't want to go in and do a whole lot of custom creation in terms of, you know, different things. If you're looking to do horror stuff, you know, like eyes and ears and chins and teeth and horns and skin texture and all that kind of stuff, I'll go ahead and show you this. So this is a really good sort of resource for you that kind of gets you set up. They're all in, these are all in 4K quality. There's a pile of PSDs and textures in here. It's like we're talking 1,500, and it's all kind of stuff. You know, it works with any software. It doesn't have to be After Effects. It can be, you can use this stuff. It's just Photoshop files and JPEG files. And the Photoshop files are essentially, they already have an alpha mat on them, so you don't have to trim anything out. You can just throw it on and stick it where it needs to go and kind of go from there. The JPEG files are more, you know, just straight texture, things you can overlay, things you can mask out. So this is a really good tool for that. Just wanted to show you guys, no disclosure, like I said, not getting paid for this, but anyways, did want you to know that's where I'm pulling some of this stuff from, so that you guys can utilize that as well if you choose to. So talking about working in After Effects, and I'll kind of talk about how this is put together too, because this is a thing that, you know, you guys, especially if you're working in groups, you're doing projects with multiple people, passing it back and forth, you can tweak this, tweak that, whatever. There's a really good methodology to kind of take in an After Effects project like I did today and set everything up, get everything where you want it to be, and then save the entire project in a big folder, and then throw it on a drive, and you can do like I'm doing with you guys, and flip it through, you know, zip it up, flip it through an email, transfer files back and forth. It makes it really easy to do that. So, okay, all that jazz being said, I guess let's go ahead and get into some After Effects stuff. So go away, email. All right. So we're going to be using the new After Effects, the 2021. So I have had a few issues with it so far. So that's kind of changed a little bit of our walk through this. But I think it's from what I found, I got a pretty good methodology that I think works for us. Obviously, whenever you log in, this is the first thing you're going to see, all their new stuff that they're trying to tell you how great they are and what they've done for you. So blah, blah, blah. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and open up my project. Let's see, get my desktop. And we'll open this guy up and see what we got. And hopefully everything loads and there's no problems. Awesome. So happiness. This is another thing. So I'll go ahead and tell you guys about this before we start rolling on this. The footage that I pulled in this one is all from Adobe stock. With your Adobe, if you're already a Creative Cloud subscriber, which most of you guys that are, any guys that are still in school, majors, those of you who are out in the workforce using Adobe and everything too, you have access to these. They have some free stuff. They have quite a bit of free stuff. I was originally going to use some of my own footage and everything, but I thought it would be easier to kind of go ahead and kick out some stuff so that you guys could do the same thing too, and be able to use it. And like I said, I just went in there, like for example, with these, I did, I think I did just face or walking to the camera is all I searched, and searched it under free and got a ton of stuff. So there's actually quite a bit in there, and it automatically, it's all royalty free. All you have to do, have the Adobe membership, license it, boom, you can use it in any kind of footage, any kind of projects you want. You can access it, I think even through, I think Premiere has a panel inside where you can access it, or you can just go to the web, Google Adobe stock, make sure you're logged in up at the top, and then look for free, anything free, and then put everywhere your keywords are, and then you can kind of jump in and start looking for stills or video, whatever that may be. So PSA being done. So this is basically, I kind of trimmed this off. This is like from a series of videos they had of this gal, and she is boxer. So she's kind of doing her little thing where she stares into the camera, wipes her nose, and kind of looking tough. So this is essentially what our face footage is. And you can tell we've got a little bit of movement in the face. It's subtle, but she kind of does that little dip with her head and everything. So she looks a little bit intimidating at the end. So I thought this one would be a good one to kind of do some stuff with. So before we kind of get into this, there's a couple, obviously there's a lot of different ways you can track things in After Effects. After Effects has built-in trackers that you can get some utility out of. They are useful some of the time. I've used them, I've used them for years. I've used a program called Mocha or Maca, depending on whomever you listen to describe it. I probably have listened to more British and Australian tutorials on it. So I will say Maca sometimes, I will say Mocha sometimes. No, it's both the same thing. But essentially, there used to be a program that was a separate program you had to get. It was for a different kind of tracking than After Effects does. It's a little bit more detailed, and therefore you get a little bit better results. But simply because Adobe saw that there was a definite possibility of partnerships, they've got kind of a thing going with the company. It used to be Imagineer, now it's, I think Boris owns Mocha. And so now it's actually included inside After Effects. So you have what the sort of the smaller version of it called Mocha AE versus the bigger one, which is Mocha Pro, which is the one that you would actually have to go out and purchase as an extra program on your computer, essentially. So everybody has this in there. There's also After Effects internal tracker, and then they've added, I think like it was in 2018, probably about 3 years ago. Then they added the face tracker. So I set up one of these with a face track so that you guys can kind of get a gist of what I'm talking about, and I'll show you how to set it up in case you're interested. But basically, you start out by going up here and grabbing your ellipse tool. Well, not that one, not a polygon, ellipse, and drawing a circle around the face, and then it'll see that, and it'll start actually tracking through AI. It will actually track pieces and parts of the face. So we can kind of see through here. It hangs on, like the left or right nostril, bridge of the nose, tip of the nose, sides of the mouth, top and bottom, right around the eyes, and right around the eyebrows. And what this does is it generates a ton of tracking points. So you've got X and Y coordinates for all of this stuff in here, so that if you wanted to try to make something and line it up to one of those, it could be done. Now, there are some caveats with that. I will show you what I mean. So let's just do something super simple. So I'm going to do a new solid and something we can see. So I'll do a purple chartreuse, whatever. And I'm going to just make a little mask on this guy. So we've got a dot. Now, we're going to take this magenta solid and we'll make it a little bit more circular. Well, no. Slightly. It doesn't matter. It's fine. All right. So I'm going to take this, and all of these, anytime we're working with layers in After Effects, and I'm going to do a lot of keyboard shortcuts through this. So whenever you select a layer, P pulls up position, T pulls up opacity, R pulls up rotation, and then you can hold down Shift and hit those keyboard shortcuts, and it'll pull up multiple things at once. So now I've got position, rotation, opacity. But position is the only one we're concerned about. So I'll just hit P and we're back to position. So I'm going to go down here, and you can also get to these up here in your effect controls panel in After Effects. You can get to these tracking points up here just the same. So that's this. These little targets are essentially the coordinates of wherever that point is on this model in our case. So I'm going to take this, and I'm going to go to the silliest point possible, and we'll go to the tip of her nose. And I'm going to go to the beginning, and I'm going to take our little magenta solid, and I'm going to move it right on the tip of her nose. Now, I'm going to use the tracking data down here, and hopefully it's going to follow this. So there's a couple of different ways we can do this. This pick whip right here under parent and link, and if you don't see these columns, you just right click here, columns, and make sure you've got parent and link selected so you can see it. And now I'm going to pick whip. Well, I'm going to have to shrink this up. So we'll get down here. We need to close these eyes up. So I can pick whip the nose tip to parent it. Now, if I move off of this, hypothetically, that should go with it. And it pretty well, I think I just hit the bridge of the nose. Close enough. We kind of get the gist. It kind of sticks there and does what, we expect it to, which is just stay there. Now, if you'll kind of notice when we get in tight with this, if I zoom in here, I can just go with my scroll wheel. It's pretty close. We've got a little bit of the shakiness going on. The shakiness kind of tells you that this is not exactly a perfect track. This will happen a lot of times in After Effects. I'll warn you. Anytime, like if you're wanting to do, call outs or things like that, where you've got kind of text and it's hanging off the side of somebody's head and things like that, you can do it in After Effects. You can use the After Effects tracker and that can work okay. But this is where I think that Mocha's stuff does it a lot better. So that being said, I'm going to jump over here into demo, and we're going to use Mocha on this one. So this is our base footage. We just got the layer selected, and I'm going to go up to animation and down here to track in Boris FX Mocha. And click that, and it brings it up. So it's set up like a plugin on here. So then it pops up in your effect controls, and you click the little button, and it pops up, and we'll tell it register later. And don't collect my data. Okay, so now this is Mocha. So Mocha, they've changed the interface to it. So once upon a time, it looked a lot like this, and apparently a lot of people thought that was confusing. So they created this to make everything way, way simpler, which is cool. So when we're talking about tracking for this model, for this character and everything, and this is actually before, I probably should show you guys what we're going to do with this, right? So before I go down that road, I'll just go ahead and show you kind of the little mock-up I did, and hopefully it's not going to drag too much. Maybe it will. I might have to turn my blur map off. Maybe. So this is what I turned her into. And then it basically has a push. I could probably try to play this, but it's gonna hang up just a hair on me because I have a lot of stuff going on this. And especially there's actually a camera lens blur on this, and that anytime you do blurs, anytime you animate blurs, it drags. After Effects goes slow. And the other thing with After Effects is it's very dependent upon the memory in your computer. So not memory when I mean like hard drives, I mean like RAM. And the more RAM you have, the better After Effects will cooperate with you. The less you have, the grouchier it gets. There's a lot of things performance-wise. This is a program that is a resource hog. I will warn you that 10 times out of 10. But you can do a lot of really cool stuff with it. So let's see. So you can kind of see I add a little 3D push on the camera, and then punched in. Come on, yeah, punched in. So we got this cool little choker shot here at the end, and it's all starting from this clip that we're working with now. So I'm gonna show you guys how to get kind of all this stuff set up to get to this point. So that all being said, now we can go back over here and go into Mocha. So jump back in. So we've got our model. So the things that we're going to need to track, if we remember the other stuff that you saw on the other screen, your eyes, we'll need to track the eyes. And then I like to do a, if you're going to do something, if you wanted to put like, mouth or teeth or something like that on it, you might even do, and we'll do that probably anyways. It doesn't take but a second to run the tracks. But essentially what I'm going to track I'm going to track our eyes, I'm going to track our nose, and I'm going to track our mouth. So the way that you can set up your tracks, there are 3 of these guys right here. There's sort of the freeform X-spline tool. There's the rectangular X-spline and the elliptical X-spline. I never use these. I've used this one forever. So I'm gonna go ahead and click this guy and just click around her eye. And I make my last point. I right click to set it. And then that creates this layer over here. So I'll just double click it. It's always good habit to get into this stuff, name everything. Don't just leave it layer 1, whatever willy-nilly it kind of sets up for you. So I'm going to call this left eye, even though I know it's not her left eye, but it's the left eye as I see this image. So we'll go with that. So we got it selected. So down here, we've got our motion options. We tracking translation. That's X and Y, left and right, up and down. We've got scale, rotation, skew, and then perspective. In this case, we don't really need perspective. She doesn't have an extreme angle with her face, so we can probably just get away with this stuff. So we go down here and you've got 2 options. You've got track forwards, track backwards, and stop. Well, 3 options really. So I'm going to go ahead and we're going to track forwards on this one and see how we do. Maybe. There we go. Now this can be slow. This can be a little tedious sometimes going through this, waiting on these tracks to finish. But the one thing about Mocha that makes it so much better than what we deal with in After Effects is what we call point tracker. So in a point tracker, you would track things where there's a large amount of contrast somewhere on the image. So like for her, it might be the corner of her eye, or right here at the corner of her mouth. So you'd have to track, like if you're going to do the transform tools, it would be, sometimes you would have, if you needed rotation, you'd have 2 points. So you'd have 1 point, like 1 point here on this side of her face, maybe 1 point up here. And then, so we've got it. We see it pretty well sticks on there. Now you can check this if you turn on this grid, and this kind of shows you where, kind of how things are lining up. These are actually just your playhead backward and forward. So you can see this sticks pretty well on her face. So we should be in pretty good shape using this one. So we'll go ahead and stop it, roll this to the beginning. Now, when you get your track set, little cog right here. You want to turn this off, because if you don't, every time you start to track other spots, it's going to retract that. So we don't need it to. So we can just turn that guy off. And then go in here, we'll make a new one. We'll go ahead and get our right eye. And there. Okay, pull this. And you can reposition these spots once you get everything set where you need it. So we'll get it sort of close like the other one, so we don't have anything too different. Okay. And then double click this guy. Right eye. Cool. Select it and fire away. Okay. So while we're tracking this one, I'll go ahead and tell you about the rest of what I meant about After Effects. So essentially, as you can see, like this was a plane. So when it tracks, that's how this tracks. It is a planar tracker. It tracks planes. It tracks solid layers. So it looks at every pixel in that plane, every pixel in this whole area that I kind of quadranted off and said, okay, tell me where this goes. You know, watch this thing, and wherever it goes, you sort of adjust as you can. Well, because it has all that reference information, it has a lot of data to work with. Whereas in After Effects, if you're talking about a point tracker, you're giving in a way smaller area, and that's all it can use to that's all it can actually use to track. So you're not going to get as good of a result as you are here. So that one looks pretty good. Now we'll go ahead and do our nose. So boom, boom. And we'll do one up here. Okay. And then same deal. Get this one rolling. Now the nose one, because that's the center portion of our face, we're going to use this track for the most of anything in here. We're going to use this track to kind of put the to set the makeup layer on her face. We're going to use it for the texture, things like that. So that's one thing when you're talking about, when you're talking about setting up something like this, you want to have that be, some feature on the face that's the most apparent, that's in every shot, that's easy to track. That's why you'll see a lot of times if you look at like behind the scenes on certain movies and things like that, you'll see people with dots all over their face. That's effectively creating tracking information for the trackers on the back end. So we'll go ahead, play this guy backwards. Cool, cool, cool. That'll work. All right. And then last one, just for fun, we'll go ahead and do her mouth. So bang, 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 bang. Something, yeah, okay. And like I said, the reason you would do all of these is so you would have multiple things that you could use to line stuff up. Now, predominantly, like I said, most of the stuff on the face, you can pretty much build off of the nose track because it is the one constant. So then that's going to be the probably the central one. And some people that may be all you need. You may just need that and eyes and you're out, But I just did, kind of examples, show you. I think I did track the mouth initially, and then I decided I didn't need it. But hey, it doesn't take but 20 seconds or so, and we're done. So cool. So we got all that. Now here's the really weird part. So this is another thing they changed about Mocha that made me very nervous the first time that I did it. So typically when we were in the old classic setup, when you had, good Lord, this is really, okay, now we can see everything. When you had everything done and you were going to go jump back and forth between After Effects and Mocha, you would select each one of these things that had been tracked, and then there would be a little button over here that would say copy tracking information, or and then After Effects would say, do you want to do a corner pin? Are you replacing a screen or something, or you just want the transformation data? And I'd be like, yes, and I'd copy it and I'd go to After Effects and paste it on a layer. They don't do that anymore because I don't know, but it made me nervous the first time I did this, but trust me, it works because I tried it already. So essentially, you got everything set, you know what you want, you've got all your stuff named. You go over here, save the project, and close this. And I was terrified to do it. I was like, no, it's just gonna delete everything I did. Actually, surprisingly, no, it did. You can still access it. You just need to flip down this tracking data, and I'll show you it's actually in here now. So they took it out of the Mocha interface and shoved it into the After Effects one. So first thing we're gonna need to do, now that we've got all that stuff tracked, is create a place to hold that information. So in After Effects, this is typically what the purpose of, we go down here, do new, and null objects. So you can do it this way, just like in everything in After Effects. And this is what I tell everybody when they take post-production. You can either do like I do and hit right click for everything, or you can do layer, new, and then null object. It's up here too. So we got our first one. We're going to need 2 more of these. So I just usually grab the first one, Command D twice. That duplicates the layer. And then we'll name these just like we name everything else. So this one, we hit enter. And then this one will be right eye track. This is left track, spell. And then this will be nose track. Cool enough. Now we got our holders. So how do we get the data on there? We'll select our layer again that we have our Mocha plugin on. And we'll go to this create track data. So click it. And then, aha, well, what layer would you like? Because I remember you did all these. So cool. Well, we'll start with the nose. So select the nose, hit OK. It pulls all that stuff up. Now, where am I going to stick it? So then we got to change, we got to make sure we change export options. We don't want a corner pin. What we want is transform data. So we select transform, and then what layer are you going to kick it to? I want to export it to nose track, and then apply export. Now we've got all that data loaded right there. So you can see that little target and that little, and that's kind of hard to see, but that little target follows around all those spots. So that's all the places that our nose moved to. So cool enough. Now we got our nose track. Now we need to get our eyes set up too. So just go back to our same clip, create track data. Now I want right eye. Okay, loads that stuff up. Keep our transforms. Now we want right eye track as our export layer and apply export. So now all that stuff's in there. Cool enough. One more to go. Create track data, left eye, okay. And then change this to left eye track and apply our export. Now we've got all of our tracking data set up for our model here. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to need to create some kind of layer that's going to be our base layer, our basically our base, if we can think about this like our base makeup layer. So first way we're going to do this, we kind of go up here and grab our pen tool. Now there's a couple of different ways to do this. Some people will like to do, and I'll just, oh yeah, we need to do a new adjustment layer. So this will be, actually we'll go ahead and name it so that I'm taking my own advice and naming stuff as I go. We'll let's just call this, roto, face roto. We're going to be using this over and over and over and over again. Okay, so this face roto layer, because her head kind of moves around a little bit, we're actually going to make this a little bit bigger than our comp settings. So we'll go layer. So we'll have the face roto selected, layer, solid settings. Want to make sure we lock our aspect ratio, and we're just going to increase the height on this some so that it's bigger than the comp. Because, and I'll show you why, when we parent it to our nose track, so it follows around with our main track for the face, we see that layer kind of moves around a lot, has a lot of drift, but it sticks on there. So we want to be able to make sure that it's going to follow this and there's going to be enough room. Because basically I'm going to draw a roto mask on this that we're going to use to apply the base makeup. And it's, like I said, it's going to be used multiple times over as a matte and things like that. So we've got that set up. Now we're going to go in and actually draw our mask. So if we go to our face roto here, and we're going to grab our pen tool. Now there's two ways to do this. You can draw the mask where you can kind of edit the points kind of traditionally, like what you're used to doing with masking, those of you that do a lot of masking. I like this Roto Bezier a lot. It makes life easier to me. So I'm going to use it. So essentially I'm going to select this, and it puts that little box on the side, and you can kind of see how it's going to help me. I'll just go, and this time I think I'll just do head and neck. I think last time I just did her face itself. So, and we can go back in here and clean this stuff up so it doesn't have to be 100% flawless the first time. You see it's kind of bending with me. So now that I've got this base mask in, I can go and I can select these points and clean my sloppiness up here. So just get it to where we're hanging on the edge right there. It doesn't have to be flawlessly perfect, because that's what our feathering is for. So you can leave like a little bit of a gap on the edges, just like that. So it's not super tight. And I'll show you here in a second why. Cool. So now we got this face roto. We can't really see where it is. So one way we can kind of do is go ahead and we'll go over here to effects and presets, and we'll throw on a hue and saturation. So if you just type in the beginning hue, we can see hue and saturation right here. Drag this and drop it on here. Now we've got these adjustments. We're going to go ahead and hit colorize. And I think what, 138? Yeah, we'll do something. That's probably way too saturated. So we'll drop the saturation down to about 14. So now we can kind of see where this is. So if we play through, it slides a bit, of course. It's never perfect. There, you will always find yourself, if you do this kind of work a lot, nuancing masks for the rest of your life. So that's just part of the monster that it is when it comes to this kind of work. So, but there's a way to fix it. Pretty simple. If we go down here to mask roto and we hit the letter M as in mask, we can see this this little thing right here, this little stopwatch by this property called mask path. So this is essentially how you do the real work of roto. So we've already got this layer following along with our track on the nose. So now what we got to do is we got to clean this mask up just a little bit. Now we can go in here and throw, like I said, throw a feather on, and all this is going to do is kind of soften our edge, so it's not like a super hard edge. So I'll put it like a 20, and we'll see what that does. Yeah, it may her look a little glowy. So essentially, the easy way to do roto on stuff like this is we'll get to our first frame, the frame where we created the mask where it looks the best, and we'll go ahead, click on the stopwatch, and that's going to drop us a keyframe right there. So now the process goes from there. You want to kind of go from the first to the end, and then start putting motion in between. You want to put tweens, is what the old what the old Flash setting was when you used to have to do animation in Flash. So now we're going to go in here and we're going to edit this mask. And like I said, roughly edit it. I could sit here and nuance this thing till kingdom come, but we'll do it. Since this is a demonstration and you guys didn't come in here just to watch me move masks around, I'll try to mow through it and not be quite so anal about it. But anyways, whenever you're moving masks, whenever you're moving points on a mask, you want to never try to move like don't go through here and just individual points, move, this, that, but I don't want to do it that way. You want to try to move things in groups of points at once. So I've got my selection tool. I'm just going to go up here, draw a box over the top, and I'm going to move all these at once up. And then I'm going to draw a box. Let's see. Probably, let's say these, and we'll kind of try to pull this in some. Always Command Z is your friend. And then when you get back out to this, you got to actually click on a point to be able to do the box selection again. So let's see, we'll just kind of, some of these, obviously because she ducks her head down, it changes just a bit. So you'll need to do the most adjusting on this one towards the end right here. Pull this stuff in and get this guy in here. And if you hold down your space bar, you can get the little hand tool to kind of move things around. So this one we're just going to cheat because that one's good enough. Okay, so now we got one set at the beginning and end. We'll jump sort of in the middle and bring some of this over. She does this kind of head wag thing in here. So I know that's part of this one. So I'll just pull all those over, grab some of this, pull some of this over. Boom, boom. All right. Go about here. We're getting drag on this side. I think this is right around where that little head wag is. Like I told you, Roto is absolutely the most entertaining part of watching anybody do anything in After Effects, is watching them do this stuff eternally. So I promised you I wasn't going to get too specific about it, but I did want to get it relatively okay. And we do, so you can sort of see the pattern, then go in betweens, in betweens, in betweens, and kind of get things pretty close, like so. That one's not bad. We'll go here. Not so bad. This one's pretty decent. I think the biggest issue we got, and then you can jump back and forth between your keyframes with J and K. So J goes forward, K goes this side. That's her little head wag deal. And she brings, that's not terrible. I think I can just about live with that. All right. I think I can survive with that. So she's got her base roto, her base makeup on. Now we can start thinking about what we're going to do with our skin texture. So look over here in our project. Let's see, how did I do these in the original? I did 119 first. Okay. So if we go inside of our footage, I've got a whole bunch of fun stuff crammed in here, but I've got a couple of different skin textures right here. So this one, just big cracks, probably like a, clay desert, something like that. And then this one is just a mess. I don't know, just some kind of grungy something. So this is what we're going to put on. This is what we're going to put on first. So whenever you double click this stuff, it's always going to open it up in this little layer folder. But you just go back to the composition window right here. We can get right back to where we were. So go to first shot, and we'll bring in skin texture, dump it on top. These are huge, as you can tell, 5,500 by 5,500. That's ginormous, but that's so that we have plenty of space to move them around. So obviously I can't really tell what I'm doing here. I'm going to have to start messing with blending mode so I can tell where this is going. So I'm going to start off, and a lot of this is set up like Photoshop. So we'll jump into multiply, and we can kind of see where this is sort of sitting on our character. All we're really concerned about is the center of her. I'm not worried about her shoulders or anything like that. So I can kind of go in here and interactively sort of mess around with where this goes-ish. And then if I do Shift T, you can take the opacity and we'll dump it down to like 45. So now we can kind of get a better idea where this is sitting on her face. So it's really up to your taste where you move. You can kind of move the texture around interactively like this. And the way that I'm going to show you to kind of set this up is so you can keep it, so you can still keep adjusting this. You don't ever, once we get this set on here and then we get it kind of cut out, you can still have the freedom to go in and adjust more so from there. So just like we did with our, get up there, with our face roto, we're going to parent this to our nose track. And now it's going to move along with our track. Cool. So we're getting there. We're getting somewhere. Obviously, we've got bits and bots of this that we don't want to see everywhere else. So this is where our face roto is actually going to come in handy. So if we Command D and copy it, we're going to bring this up here above the skin texture. And then we're going to turn this into what we call a track matte. Track matte is the easiest way to think of it's like a cookie cutter. So I'm going to take this and use the mask here to drive the borders of this skin texture. Simple way to do it. You just put the roto layer above it and then go to the track matte, alpha matte face roto. All that stuff is gone. All the bits and bots on the side are gone, and it's trimmed out to the same that we did this original face roto. So this is why you want to take the time to really make sure the face roto comes out pretty good, because it's going to save you time nuancing it when we get to this point. So now we have a problem. We don't want texture in our eyes. So how do we fix this? Well, you already have everything tracked. So the easiest way to do it is to make another mask. So now we're going to mask out her eyes. So if we zoom in here, and same kind of deal, just like we did before. Now this time I'm not going to use Roto Bezier. I'm going to, just for fun, I'll show you guys what the regular masking tool looks like. And some of us that have been doing this for years get used to doing it this way. I've kind of got spoiled with the Roto Bezier, so I use it a lot more now. But essentially, we'll go ahead and make sure we've got the face roto selected, and then we're going to click and drag. And make our mask. I always put an extra one down here. Boom, just like that. So now we've got this mask of this eye, and if we hit M, this is our base mask. And a lot of times, one of the other things you can do, which is cool, is you can change the color of these masks, because this doesn't always show up the greatest in the world. You double click on the swatch, and I'll make this guy yellow. Very apparent where this is. Okay. So now we've got the mask, but we need to make it cut this out. So for our first mask, which is going to be setting our initial shape, it's set to add. So anything else that comes out of that needs to be subtracted. So we'll go to subtract, and then boom, it's actually cutting that out of, I probably should have done that on the face roto because I didn't think about it, but that's okay. We can do it and copy it over. So now that I've got this mask on there like that, I need to also go in here and I'll twirl this up and twirl it down and add a feather about, I don't know, 10, maybe less. We'll see. You can make it a little bigger on the outside and kind of feather it in. It doesn't have to be dead on the eye. That's only going to be when we actually start replacing the eye that we're worried about that more so. So something sort of like that. Okay. So now, because everything's tracked, and we'll go ahead and drop a keyframe, but chances are we'll probably have to move this around. So let's see how well this follows along. Not too shabby. I think I can see, let's see, it moves up just a hair. So we'll just have to do a few. And the easiest way is we've already sort of mapped out our major movements of the face with these other keyframes from our mask. So we can just go JK and jump around and then just reposition based on that. So look over here, get my selection tool back, grab this, reposition this so that we're closer to our eye. Do the old multiple points at once deal. Right. And then hit K for our next major movement. Grab it. right. Okay, again. Just sort of move it up. I think that otherwise is pretty okay. Okay, again. Okay, again. Oop. And K again. And that one looks pretty good. So leave me alone. So now we've got, and like I said, there again, you can name all of this stuff. And I would definitely suggest when we start getting multiple layers and all these masks, just make your life easier. Go in and take 2 seconds and just do left eye mask and right eye mask. So we've got that one set. Now we need to do one for the other side. So make sure you got your layer selected. We'll go back in here and we'll go and make our other eye mask. Boom. Just like that. Change it to subtract and throw a little feather on it of 10 pixels to soften the edge. And then key the mask path. And we'll do our same thing. Step through these and clean this up. Grab it, move it around, move it around. And last one. I can live with that. Okay, now, because I'm a goofball and I forgot about it, we need these same masks down here on our regular roto. So, cool thing we can do, we're on the first frame. Always make sure that you go back to the beginning, because sometimes when you copy stuff, the keyframes will go all over the place. So we're going to take the left eye mask, we're going to copy it, we're going to go down to our face roto and paste it. And then we're going to go to our, we didn't name it, right eye mask, Mac, right eye mask. We're going to select it, copy it, face roto, paste it, boom. Now we got the eyes cut out. So we're not spilling out, having our texture spill over onto our eyes, which is a good thing. So far so good. We got this stuff in. We can close this up and close this up. So I'll call this base skin. So now we need to, we actually need to use our other skin texture, which is our cracks, that kind of scale look. So rather than have to set all this stuff up again, a really quick and dirty way to do this is to shift select both these layers, Command D to duplicate them. Okay, so now we've got another skin texture and we've already got our roto information. We've already got our tracking and our roto and everything already set up in there. So all we need to do is select our other texture, and doing this on a Mac. So I've got to do Option instead of Alt on a Windows. So holding down Option or Alt, I take this skin texture and I'm going to drag it down over the other layer skin texture, and it's going to replace it like that. And I won't have to worry about it. So you're not doing it. It must not be there. It must not be on. Is it Control? No. Maybe it's Command. You're not cooperating, and you were supposed to. You're supposed to make me look smart. No, it must be Option. It has to be Option. Well, you were supposed to make me look like I knew what I was doing, but you know, I guess because I'm on a Mac and not on a Windows, meh. All right, so not a big deal. We'll just do this. We'll just turn this guy off for a second and we'll just reposition. Since somebody wants to be difficult, do the same thing we did earlier and go ahead and shift this to multiply. And let's see, sort of, kinda, is this what we want? Texture wise. Yeah, okay, fine. Okay. So we got it in there. We're going to take the roto, drag the roto down here. This now, we're going to take the track mat because the roto is right on top of it. and do alpha matte face roto 3. So bam, everything's off of there. Now I probably, this texture is sort of overtaking the other one. So we'll hit the letter T for opacity, dump this down to maybe 46, maybe 32. Yeah, so that's more so. And then we can even take this base one. I think I did this on the other one, and I took this to overlay. Yeah, to sort of bring that up. And then we can take this and bring it back in some more. And then T 38. I don't know if I like that overlay. We'll go back to multiply maybe. Either one. But you can kind of see these blending modes can have a little bit of a different look when you start kind of just overlaying stuff, playing around with the types of blending modes and things like that. I think for now we'll just leave it on multiply. So it looks a little less overly dramatic. So now we've got our, no, what did we forget to do? What did we forget to do? We didn't set this to the nose track, so it's floating. There we go. Now we're in good shape. Okay, now everything's sticking. We've got our base texture on. We got the texture kind of trimmed out. We got a little bit of color on the face. So something else we can do, because this is, these are flat planes and they're just being mapped to whatever the flat plane is on that face. So a little trick that you can do to sort of make things look a little bit more organic is if we go over to effects and presets and go to optics, compensation, and we throw that on, let's throw that on our base skin. And we want to take the center and stick it right around our nose, and then start tweaking this field of view a little bit. Like we'll go, I don't know, 25-ish, 30-ish. We'll do 36. That's a good number. So you can kind of see, if you see, it's sort of nuanced on this one. You can sort of see on and off. And basically what optics compensation does, this is like how you would correct fisheye lens. So it works backwards when you're adding that sort of bend to it. So now it's actually going to distort in the same way. So if I did Control C, I'm copying the effect off the base skin, and this is the scales. And I'm going to paste it on the scales. It's sort of bending that back on the face a little bit, just giving you a little bit of distortion to make it look a little bit more, like it's an organic thing. Still think I want to take those scales back a little bit more. Yeah, more so like that. Okay, so we're getting there. Now we gotta get some eyes on the scale. So let's go back into our project. This is an example of one of the eyes from that kit, from that big kit, that monster kit that I was kind of talking to you guys about. These are ginormous. Like I said, I'm just going to bring this in. You can tell it's so big. This is like 4,500 by 4,500. So it's a huge, huge eye. First thing we do, we're going to need to, we're obviously going to need to tweak the opacity so we can kind of line it up, but definitely scale 2-ish. 2 should be closer. Yeah. So then we can go in here and kind of worry about placement. So boom, boom. Hold down Shift and hit T so we can go to opacity, and we'll take the opacity down to 35 is a decent number. And we can tell that it needs to be smaller. So 0.8. Nope, too small. 1.4. And you just sort of guesstimate on these until we can get this kind of lined up. You can use your arrow keys once you get it close. And I think that probably needs to be just a hair bigger, so we'll go with like 1.5 maybe. Yeah. And then arrow key. Might even do width a little bit wider than height, because it looks a little bit more bowed. There we go. All right. So eyeball, and then set this to screen so we can kind of see through it a little bit. And I'll take this down to like 66. So we've got, oh boy, I didn't do it on the first frame. I just now dawned on me. Let's make sure we get that over in the right spot. Always when you're doing stuff and you're trying to line stuff up to tracking data, go to the first frame. Always go. Don't set it up in the middle. Set it up on the first frame so that everything is lined up from that point on. All right, so now we're cool. So I got it laid in here. I'm going to go ahead and parent it to my left eye track. So now it should follow that along relatively okay. Chances are, I think this one did all right. I may have had to change it just a little bit when I did this the first time. Of course I did, because nothing is ever perfect. It always changes. Anyway, biggest thing we got to deal with is we got an eyelid in the way. So we got to get that eyelid out of there. We got to get all that jazz. So we'll go back up here to our handy dandy pen tool, and we're just going to draw a little mask. We're going to draw the top eyelid on this guy because it never dips below. Her eye never, or pupil never dips below the lower eyelid, so we don't have to make two eyelids. So that's a good thing. So we'll just see. We got Roto Bezier off on that layer. I'll just do this number right here. Okay, and then flip down our mask, and we're going to subtract. Obviously, if we look, that's a super sharp edge, so we're probably going to need to soften that, but I think I have a point on there that's a little rough. Okay, so we're going to need to throw some feather on it. So now here's the thing. Normally, if this eye were not ginormous, you would put a low value number here, but since this is a ginormous eye, you have to put a higher value number because the blur is not going to look the same. So I know that doesn't make any sense, but just trust me, high number. Normally, if this was closer to actually the size of the eye, you would make a small number. But in this case, we'll just do 100. And you can kind of see, you don't really see the soft edge on this. So I'm going to go 200 so you can really see what I'm talking about more. So see, just there at 200 pixels. Like normally, if I was making a mask for something this small, it would be obliterated. But in this case, it actually looks right because, like I said, it's huge. So cool. Now we've got one eye. Now we want to make sure that this thing is going where we want it to go. So as usual, we'll put a position instead, because we're not dealing with the mask this time. Now we're just dealing with a layer. We're just going to throw one key on it. And then we'll go to our face roto because we know that's where all the movement is, and hit U. So we know that all of these points are where there is a lot of movement. And if it looks okay, we'll kind of step through these. Relatively. It's a lot better than I thought it was going to be. Cool. So we'll just need to do a little bit of shifting. Whoops. Command Z. And I'll just do my left and right arrow keys on this because we're talking about really simple stuff. So, okay. That one. Okay. Not too shabby. So the only thing I think we're going to need to do is just move our eyelid a little bit. So go to M, and we'll go all the way back to the beginning. Key our mask path, same deal. Let's boom in here. Okay, that one will work. That one I think will work. We'll go ahead and do select it all so we can change everything. Because with this one, we're not going to have to do much, but just like move it up and move it down. So maybe actually J, I'm just doing up on my up arrow key a little bit just to kind of, like I said, just nuance it just a bit. This one looks pretty okay. Most of these should. It's not going to be, you know, a huge difference once you get to a certain point. This is the one I think where she starts to duck. I, and then K. That one's pretty cool. So, boom out. Now we've got As you see, the more stuff I'm adding to this, the slower and slower After Effects begins to chug. Now, one thing you can do, and I'm keeping this on full resolution for you guys so that you can see how everything's looking, how it's going to look when we actually kick it out. When you're working on stuff in After Effects and it starts doing this chug, chug, chug stuff, you can dip the quality down to like third or half, and you'll actually get some quicker responsiveness. So now if I hit spacebar, oh, wow, that's so much faster. So make your life a little easier. But still, it chugs at times anyway. But cool. Eye looks good. Now we need another one. So we can copy the one we had and try to just make it work. And I'm going to go in here and left eye and right eye. Okay. Okay. So we've got mask path and position that's going to be changing, obviously. So let's kill all these keyframes because they're all worthless now for our right eye. And then we're going to move it over and tweak our mask. So shoot over here and we'll get back in here and do our arrows. And here's where I'm going to have to jump back into full because I can't see. Cool. Thereabouts. Okay. Now we just got to fix our mask. And let's see, for this one, I'm just going to move some points. Come on. Okay. Good enough. All right, now, so let's do Shift P, and we've got position set. So we'll start doing our jump. Jump to the next one. Gonna have to move some stuff around. Do arrow keys. Oh yeah, wait a minute. What am I doing? What did I forget? It's on the left eye. We're on the right eye now. We got to get switched to the right eye. So you can switch it here too. You don't have to do the pick whip every time. So this is right eye track from this point. So this will be pointless. So now if we keep moving around and we'll just hop to the next one, see how close we are. Hey, not bad. Not bad at all. Sometimes these are pretty close to perfect, sometimes not so much. So it's just one of those things. Like I said, it's a little nuancy thing. You just got to kind of truck along. Now everything mostly looks okay with the mask. I'm just throwing a keyframe in here just because if you don't, and there is something back here that we have to change, then it's going to animate that over time, and I'm not going to want it to, and I'm going to have to add in a keyframe anyway. So better just to go ahead and do this now so that we get this set. It's okay. Yeah, we got a little bit of shift here. So get the eye moved, and then we've got some space we need to make here. Come on. Good. All right. Okay, again. Now this one, I think we're going to have to do a little both because that eye moves up and over. Okay. Fix the mask. And then last one. I think I can live with that. Okay. So let's get a little preview. We'll have to dump our resolution down to third. See what we got so far. Dig it. Good deal. Okay. She's looking like a lizard lady. It's exactly what we want. All right. What am I forgetting? What else do we need to do yet on this one? I think now we have gotten to that point. So that's cool. So now you can grab all this stuff And if I Command A, I can wrinkle everything up. Now typically, if I was doing this and I knew I was going to need to come back in and change stuff, you can also change the colors on all these little squares too. And so I get stupid that way. I want my eyes to be a certain color, them to be pink, so I know those are eyes. Or your face roto, all your roto layers, if you want to change all of them to one color, you can do that kind of stuff. But purposes of this, that's kind of that's just kind of my anal nature, so you don't have to do that. So now we're going to try to take this character we've created. We've got this base makeup, we got all this stuff set up, and we're going to try to put her in this scene. So come on, we're going to try to set this scene up. So now we've got to do a quick and dirty, and I promise it will be a very quick and dirty roto of just her. So what I'm going to do is I have my original setup where I did our makeup and all this other stuff, and then I threw that inside another comp. And so this is going to be Command K, and you can hit Command K, Control K to get up your composition settings to rename it, or you can just go over here. Point at it, Jacob, because they can totally see what you're pointing at. You can just go over here to your project window and change the name here, but this will be final demo, just so we can keep all this stuff straight. Cool. All right. So now I think I made it shorter in the final one, in the final. Yeah, I think I actually trimmed it off. We'll say it's 618. So I can jump to that time. Anytime I'll tell people, this in class too, you can either go here or you can go inside of here and just change the numbers. So I know about 618 is where I started it. And then I'll hit the letter B. What that does is that's trimming off my workspace right here. This is, and if I'm exporting this, it's just going to start here and go forward. But I'm not shrinking the size of this comp. So if I wanted to use any part of this, I can adjust this at any time I want to. So it's just something that I like to do, just to make it easier to sort of look at smaller portions of the animation at a time. So now we start from this, and she ducks her head and stares into the camera menacingly, and we have our little move. So how we're going to need to do this, we're going to need to do just like we've been doing masking for everything else. We're going to go in here, grab our pen tool. I am going to roto Bezier this one, and I'm just going to boom, boom, boom right around, just get our head and shoulders kind of out. So typically, like I said, if you do this and you're setting up a shot for this, and this is not going to be the background that you're going to do it on, this is where you would shoot it on green screen and make your life a lot easier. But in our case, we're using stock footage, so we don't have that option. So I'm just going to mow through here and make a really quick mask. And then I'll come back and clean it up. Boom. Okay. Now, I'll go do a little super quick touch up on this mask. And we'll leave her ears in with her earrings. No, we'll take them out. We'll just make it look weirder. We'll give her no ears. And just kind of set it up like this, super fast. And I'll leave that little bit of a gap because I'll go in and just do a feather on it as is. Okay, now another thing, situation like this, I need another keyframe here because I need to pull this over, but I don't have one, and I need maybe one in here too. Same deal. You can always go back in with your with the pen tool, and as you move over it, you get that little plus that tells you if you click and drag, you can add another spot in there and make your life easier. All right. So we didn't want to make it too dense. So now we've got our very, 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 very basic mask. So we'll hit M to pull it up, key it, we'll move all the way to the end. Obviously now we have a big shift here. We're going to have to do a little bit of animation on this. So I'll grab this side and then just kind of do that and grab this side and just kind of do that. Cool. Middle, same deal. Just keep tweaking, making big movements with this. So we're just working with one half at a time. Typically now, when you're doing this stuff and you're really, doing some serious roto work and things like that, you would do all that. You would start breaking up the shapes, like we do just her, just the head, then the neck would get a separate one, then the shoulder, left and right shoulder, we get a separate one. But, this isn't a roto class, and no one would come to a roto class. And if they did, there's something wrong with them because, good Lord. Okay. So then jump over here. Boom. 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 Okay. Same deal. I think we took the head wag out of this one, so I don't have to anticipate her doing the little come at me thing. But let's see how we doing now. She got a little bit of that. Where did you go? There you went. That's where you're going to one side. I knew it was in here somewhere. And we'll go ahead and feather this and see if we can just get away with this. So, I don't know, 25. Okay. Let's get us a background in here so we know what we're looking at now that we have this stuff set up. So I've got this very common looking dark forest shot in here in the back. So now let's just see how god awful that mask is. It's terrible, but I'm going to try not to get too pissy about it because we're going to sort of reframe some stuff anyway. So, okay. Now, if we look in this one, obviously there's some more stuff going on. I've got our nice little theatrical, Blu-ray bars for the top and bottom to kind of frame this out. And then I've got a 3D camera in here. So 3D camera is what's going to allow us to sort of set this up and add that little bit of parallax to it. So we'll do that at a new layer, new camera. And to make this a little bit more dramatic, we'll put a 24 millimeter lens on it. Do that job. Yes, I know there's no 3D layers. Imagine that. So now I want to make these layers 3D. So go over here, turn on the cubes. Go ahead and name this one Snake Lady. And this is just going to be our background. So now we're going to need to separate these in 3D space. So if we look, we can jump over here to this custom view, and this is kind of let us know what this all looks like in 3D space. So we've got both of these layers and they're stacked right on top of each other and the camera's looking at them. So what I'm going to have to do is put some separation for the background and the foreground so that when we start moving the camera, it looks like there's parallax between the two, like it would in real life. So I can go to the background, hit P. We'll throw a big number on this, 1,000, knock it back there. Now we can see there's definitive difference between the two. You can go from custom view back to active camera, which means we are looking through this camera one. Now, obviously, because that background is way back there, we're going to need to make it bigger so that it takes up our full space here. So we'll scale this up some. And then we can sort of reposition it a little. Quit. Yeah. Okay. And then same thing. Actually, let's go ahead and drop our bars over top of this. Put it on top so we can kind of see how we're going to frame this up. And I'm going to go to my camera position, hit the letter P. I'm going to key that position. So I'm going to actually have a little camera move, a little dolly move in here. So like I said, we can get some drama out of this. Now I can sort of position my snake lady more so. So maybe even we can take her back some. So pull up her position and we'll scoot her back just a bit. Don't want to do her too much because you see we're cutting her off right there. So we know that's our boundary. That's about as far away as we can get from her. and we want to get all the way in super tight right here. So we're going to take our camera and push in here to get our choker. And we're going to need to reposition our snake lady so that she's in there on that choker shot. I don't think I did. So position her just so. And then here we'll need to, because we keyed her, we'll actually have to have her kind of move with us a little bit. So now we've got that move. Cool, getting there. All right, now got this part. We need to get that crazy blur going on the sides. And so to do this, we do a little bit of a cheat. And then I'll, actually, let's go ahead and on the dark forest, I did some exposure, a little bit of exposure, a little bit of Gaussian blur. I'll show you what we did on that. And we'll get those things set up before we wrap this sucker up. So we can go over here to our effects, exposure, spell exposure, and drop that on our background. And then we also needed a Gaussian blur. Throw that on. Gaussian blur about 10, I think, is what I had. Repeat edge pixels. It's too bright. That's what we're noticing. This is so bright. So we need this to be dimmer. We don't want all this happiness. There we go. Now it looks like a much more foreboding forest. Cool. All right, so we got that part set. Did I change anything on her? Maybe. Yes, I did exposure and hue set. Okay, because we dimmed her down some. All right, so same thing. Exposure on her. And hue saturation. Her. Okay. What did I do on that one? Just so I'm not going overboard with it. 0.4 and that's 0.1. So we took the exposure down almost half a stop. So yeah, about half a stop. And then brought in a little bit more shadow on her. That might be a little, yeah, cool. All right, and then knowing me, it was probably desaturation. I'm almost positive, right? Of course, of course. So snake lady, always want to dip our saturation some at the end so it's not super saturated. So I'll take that one down about a -30. Everything's starting to look like it belongs together. So we're in good shape. All right, now we got to add our camera blur. So this one's kind of, like I said, this one is a cheat. So we're going to go layer, new, solid. It's going to be a white solid. Okay. Take it. We're going to move it under our bars. We're going to take the opacity, knock it down to like 10. All right. Now I'm going to draw a mask on this, and what I'm going to focus on is her face. So I'm going to go in, do this, and do one of these numbers just like this. Boom. Okay. Doesn't make any sense now, I know. So turn that opacity back up on that. I'm going to take the feather and feather daylights out of it so that it's very feathery. And then we might need to actually, oh yeah, throw this on a 3D layer. Boom. Make sure that is a 3D layer. And then we might have to do this little mask expansion is kind of a trick. So if you make a mask that is too big by the time you feather it and you want that to mash those edges in, you can use mask expansion to actually shrink the mask and do the same deal. So now I've got this heavenly glow around her and we need to do something with this. So we're going to pre-compose it. We're going to go layer and pre-compose. And we're going to call move all attributes into the new composition. And we're going to call this guy blur map. Okay, double click inside of our blur map. This is actually, even though it looks like black in the background, it's actually, if we turn on our our checkerboard right here, we can tell this is transparent, because whenever you see something, see the checkerboard in anything Adobe, you know that it's always transparent. So I'm going to go and do layer, new, solid. Going to make a black solid this time. Throw this behind our white solid. Now, if we go back to final demo, I see the black stuff, but what's going on here? I'm going to take this guy, move him to the top. And the one thing I don't have is we're not connected to our camera anymore, but yet this is a 3D layer. So what we're going to have to do is copy this camera over. So I'm going to select this layer, Command C, go into our blur map, Command V, make sure that the camera, is lining up. So now we've got the motion here. So in our final demo, we turn off our blur map, and now we'll need to add a new adjustment layer. And this is going to be our camera lens blur. Cool. So obviously the effect we're going to look for is a camera lens blur. Imagine that. So throw that on. Now we start to see, it's made everything blurry. It's not exactly what I want, but we're getting there. So what we're going to need to do is tell it where the blur layer is. So the blur map is up here. So in here, we're going to tell it that. Oh, well, now the white stuff is blurred. And so it's basing that off of luminance, which means it sees this as what I want to blur and not this. Well, I want to do it the opposite way around. So they have this convenient button for inverting it. Now we've got soft background. We've got focus on the face. So we want to throw on a little animation for this. It's set at 5. Obviously, if you're pushing in on something and you want to amp up the drama, we'll keyframe that one. Go to this end shot for our choker and throw it on heavy. And then we've got this super intense snake lady stare thing. Just like that. And then if we look at this with full res, you can kind of see how intense that's going to look versus this shot. Yeah, and you see it has to do a lot of thinking to generate this one. So now we can see where it starts and where it ends, and we get all this fun jazz. You can do lots of things from here if you want to go in and kind of tweak. If you want to add another adjustment layer, you can go in here and do some color correction, do some curves. If we don't like all the greens, we can sort of move out of the greens a little bit. So I don't know, we'll go in here. Let's throw a little bit of you can throw a little bit more red into it if you want to, and really kind of push this color or dip the green some. And let's see, we want to dip them in, make it more intense in the shadow. Yeah, go for something like that more so. So lots of different ways we can kind of go from here to control this. But obviously those eyes still pop coming out. So that's exactly what we want. Good and creepy looking. So yeah, that's essentially a quick and dirty way to take a regular looking person and make them look rather unregular and somewhat imposing. So
Okay, so thank you so much, Jake, and thank you everybody for coming. And we'll see you in the fall. Of course, many of you I'll see before that, but we'll see you in the fall for the next workshop. Anything you want to say in closing, Jake?
No, appreciate you guys coming. I hope you learned a little something, and if not, I hope you maybe gained a little bit of interest, and this is something that you might want to check out. We're going to be doing some of the same stuff, an expansion of, and probably a lot more in depth and kind of starting from scratch, kind of After Effects stuff in post production, dealing with probably working in some Photoshop stuff too. In terms of, like I said, you can kind of build some of this stuff out in Photoshop and then use After Effects to put it on there. One last thing before I forgot about it, I did tell you guys I was going to tell you about how to take all this stuff. Like if you have a big After Effects project, this is definitely something that applies to everything. Doesn't matter if it's something like this or if you've got some big motion graphics project or whatever, and you want to, so you have this big project, you got all these video files or animations and sometimes audio files and pictures and things like that. And you want to be able to store it, because this is important, because I don't know how many people have come back and, oh, I don't know where my stuff is, or I moved something, or I downloaded this and then I tried to open it and now I can't find anything. Well, this is kind of what you need to get started doing and be thinking about doing. I do this every single time that I make a big After Effects project like this, is how you can actually take everything and fold it in, just like I did today, into this folder. So the way that works is, obviously you'll need to save your project, or it will prompt you to. So I'm just going to do this silly thing real quick, and we'll just throw it on desktop. And I'll save this as workshop 2. So save it there. So save it the first time. And then now we're going to collect our project. So we go up to File, and then it's down here in Dependencies, Collect Files. Now what this is going to do is take everything that's in this After Effects project and put it in a folder and organize it so that you can zip that folder up, send it to somebody, trade files back and forth. This is the easiest way to do it. So essentially, it's going to kick you this dialog right here. You want to collect all source files. Don't even mess with this. Just leave it right here every single time. The report's not important. It's just a text file that says, this is what I did when I put all your stuff together. Nobody needs that. So really all you'll need, and then it will do this. We'll have this one checked by default, reveal collected project in Finder when finished. Same thing with Windows, open the window when it's finished. Either way, it tells you how many files are going to be collected, what the size is. In this case, we got 123 megs, 9 effects are used. Now, the one thing you need to remember is if you've got plugins on your computer that you've got, like, so you got some of those things off of Video Copilot, or you've gone on to AE Scripts or one of the other avenues out there and bought some After Effects plugins. You were at ETSU and we've got Red Giant somewhere and you're using Red Giant stuff and you don't have that set up yet. Do remember that, because when you try to open that up on another system that doesn't have that stuff installed, it's going to throw up an error. That all being said, it's going to give you all this information. That's all cool. Yeah. So I'm going to hit collect. And then collect files into folder. Where is that folder going to go? So in my case, I'm just going to go back to, where are we at? Where's desktop? Back to desktop, hit save. It's going to close the project I had open, and then it's going to turn around and open up this project that I just saved. So that's, if we can see now, desktop workshop 2. So now it's opening up this folder and it tells me that wherever in the world it is on this desktop, probably hidden behind some mirror. Yeah, right here. So then I have this right here. I can zip that up, send that along to somebody, keep it for posterity, whatever. And you got all your project files collected and you know where everything is. So that's basically the last little thing I wanted to leave you with. Good practice to have. Name your stuff, collect your files at the end. And that way you can always find what you need to find. So those are my parting words of wisdom for you on this beautiful Saturday afternoon. So go outside and do something and get away from the computer for a little while. You'll feel better about yourself.
Thank you, Jake. Jake's classes on Monday evenings in the fall semester. It's a topics, RTVF 4957, 5957. And it's post-production with Jake VanHuss. Thank you so much, Jake. Thanks, everybody. Have a great weekend.
See you guys.
Bye-bye.